Hello, YouTube. Happy Thanksgiving. I wish I had better news, but unfortunately, I do not. Tonight's video is going to be another Superman update, um, specifically on the trailer, um, specifically on well, actually a couple things, the trailer, but also I'm going to be talking a little bit about the Batman Part 2 and its rumored cancellation. And I'm also going to be talking about just the enormous sack of shit that James Gunn is. So let's get started. The Superman trailer. So from what I understand, um, there's obviously, I have said before, that how much is riding, on this movie, because Warner Brothers Discovery is on the verge of bankruptcy. You know, their um, their stocks are plummeting. Um, Discovery had David Zaslav. Literally, like, nobody is happy with him right now. Nobody is happy with him right now, and he, he is experienced with doing documentaries. That's like, Discovery. That's like, like his thing. He is not a um he does not understand, like, the concept of fiction, or the concept of, um he has no clue. He doesn't know anything about, like, comic books, or superheroes, or anything like that. He's just um and from what I understand, he basically said as much at one point in an interview. And yeah, and but these, and Warner Brothers, and Warner Brothers is toxic. Warner Brothers is one of the most bullshit companies on the planet, and it actually goes, like, um it goes as far back as far as them, like, ruining, like, comic book movies and stuff like that. It goes as far back as the Christopher Reeve movies. The original Superman was obviously, a massive success. It was a massive hit. And then um and then and then um from what I understand, Superman and Superman 2 were supposed to be shot, originally supposed to be shot, back to back. And but Warner Brothers basically, they basically fucked over Richard Donner, and they brought in Richard Lester. I don't remember the whole story. Um, I don't remember the whole story, but they, but they, long story short, they fucked him over, and they brought in Richard Lester. Tim Burton, um, again, the original Batman, massive hit, massive success. Um, one of my favorite movies. Um, Batman Returns. Not as good. People didn't like how dark it was. They actually thought it was too dark. Um, and they didn't really like Danny DeVito's, take on the Penguin. Um, and and it didn't do as well as the first movie. So they basically, they fucked over Tim Burton. They brought in Joel Schumacher, and they fucked him too because um, I know I did a video on this, and if you haven't, check it out. Joel Schumacher's original cut for Batman Forever was a 3-hour cut. It was dark, it was gritty, and it would have dove into Bruce's childhood trauma and how it affected, and how it impacted him to become Batman. And obviously, due to in Warner Brothers being, Warner Brothers just being, the bullshit company that they are, basically said, yeah, no, you're not doing this. And that's when we got, and that's how we got, like the comedic, fucking, like goofy ass tone of the cut that we ended up getting. And then obviously, Batman and Robin, one of the worst movies of all time. It was obviously, that was obviously all them too. They, the nipples on the costume, the bat asses, that was all them. And then, and then the whole Justice League, fiasco. Snyder obviously, stepped away from the movie, because he suffered a family tragedy at the time, and from what I understand, it was Snyder's decision to leave the movie. He didn't get Warner Brothers didn't fire him or anything like that. It was his decision, to leave the movie at the time, and they replaced Snyder with Joss Whedon, and obviously he's and he just ruined just the entire fucking thing. And I basically, Warner Brothers knew that the movie was not going to be successful, and they knew that the movie was, they knew, that version of Justice League, was basically dead on arrival. And yeah, no, they've been, Warner Brothers, but the point I'm trying to make here is basically, Warner Brothers has been ruining DC, for many, 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 many years. I already made a video on David Ayer's, Suicide Squad, and how, the movie that came to theaters was not the movie that he made. And it's, it's just, they're so toxic, and it really, really looks like that, a lot of people are finally coming around to, are finally coming around to that. They're finally coming around to the fact that, they're finally coming around, like they fired Christopher Nolan after Tenet failed. And then, Christopher Nolan went off to, Universal. From what I understand, he's that's where he's actually making his next movie. And just, I mean, they've just, they burned so many bridges over the years, and, fucked so many people over. Henry Cavill, Richard Donner, Joel Schumacher, Christopher Nolan, Zack Snyder. The list is endless. Excuse me, sorry. And but no, another thing that I want to talk about is um, I want to get back to the Superman trailer. There is enormous pressure from um, from Warner Brothers, and from what I understand, and rightly so, they are very worried about how this movie is going to perform and how it's going to um, how it's going to go over with the audience. Um, there has been um, I'm going to pull it up now. Um, I I was sent a an article. Um, a buddy of mine follows like all of the major news, like all over Twitter and stuff like that. He follows all of the major like reliable insiders and stuff like that. And he sent me this a reliable insider named Dan Marcus. Um, and I'm going to read you here what he said. What he said. It says, to clarify, since every trailer um, necessitates multiple cuts, apparently the editor cutting the trailer presented a fairly finalized version to the studio weeks ago. The studio wasn't happy and said, make it better. I wouldn't I wouldn't want to be a part of the marketing department, right? I wouldn't be. I wouldn't want to be a part of the marketing department over there right now, which was recently gutted. So, um, so this alone should tell you that. Um, this alone should tell you. This alone should tell you, like how much trouble this movie is in right now, and um, the fact that there were multiple Warner Brothers is trying to decide what version, what cut, um, what cut to use for a Superman trailer, because they are so worried about this movie and how it's going to perform that they're basically um, they're they are going to I'm calling it right now, they are going to they are going to try to make this they are going to try to make this trailer look so good, um in the when you see it, and then you go to and then you go to see it, in theaters next year, and it's a complete fucking disaster. So, and that alone, it's just lying in advertising, which Warner Brothers has done quite a bit of in the past. So, um, and and I know I already talked a little bit about this, but I really need. I cannot stress this enough. I really need to emphasize. Um, this is something that I really need to try to emphasize to all of you. Do not trust James Gunn. I know a lot of people are saying, "Oh, well, he's one of the main heads of DC Studios. He knows what's going on, blah blah blah." No. James Gunn is interested in one thing and one thing alone, and that is James Gunn. That is all he cares about. That is all he's interested in. Like for example, I'm going to bring up some comments here. I'm going to briefly bring up the. There's a lot of speculation going around right now that the Batman Part 2 is going to be canceled. Um, Now, obviously, there is nothing out there right now to say that, yes, it is going to be canceled. However, um, However, I can say that I know for a fact, Jeffrey Wright, who played Gordon in the first movie, he himself said on social media, he he himself said on social media, I have not heard from Matt. I have no idea what's going on. I have not received a script. I'm very, very eager to come back. Um, and remember, these actors obviously all have, like representatives, agents, and stuff like that would obviously put them in touch with, um, you know, with, you know, with, like the directors and stuff like that to confirm, okay, like that there's a script or we're shooting or whatever. And, um, and this and it is not, um I am not putting, I do not put, um I am not putting it past Gunn that he is the reason why this movie is being stalled right now. I will not put it past him, because James Gunn is very, very famous. You got to understand what James Gunn says on social media and what he ends up going with are two totally different things. So, for example, the for example, he called um he called the Flash movie one of the greatest comic book films of all time. Okay, that movie ended up being not only not only one of the biggest bombs of all time, but also they pulled it out of theaters literally like after a week. It was literally after like a week it was released. It was pulled from theaters because it wasn't making any money, and um, it was pulled from theaters um, because it wasn't making any money and nobody was going to see it. Um, now, obviously, Ezra Miller's behavior obviously had something to do with it, but obviously um, the other part of it obviously was just the massive rewrites and reshoots that movie went under. Um, and um, and I'm gonna read to you guys. I'm gonna read to you guys here what James said, what Gunn said about, in his response to the Batman Part Two. Like, why would anyone believe a rando on social networking? Of course it's not. If it was canceled, it would be canceled. Who has time for charades? I have been one of Matt's biggest cheerleaders for years, since Cloverfield in the Apes movies. We are eagerly awaiting his script. Now, I am calling bullshit on this for several reasons. One, J- um, Number one, notice how everything else that's not going, that is not Guns right now is being canceled. Superman and Lois was canceled after 4 seasons. Um, um, Titans and the DC shows, Titans and Doom Patrol, were canceled literally the day like he was brought in. Those two shows were canceled, and um, you know um, the and another thing I want to bring up. Um, Another thing I want to bring up, the Black Adam cameo, Henry Cavill's cameo at the end of Black Adam. Um, that that was supposed to be Henry Cavill's return. That was supposed to be the announcement, for his official return, as Superman. And now, when that dropped, and when he announced, his return as Superman, everybody welcomed him back. Instagram as a whole welcomed him back. IMDb welcomed him back. DC Comics welcomed him back. Chief creative officer at DC Comics and comic book artist Jim Lee welcomed him back. Tony Daniel welcomed him back. IMAX welcomed him. Welcomed him back. Tony Garcia welcomed him back. All these people, welcomed Henry Cavill's return as Superman. Only for him to post on his Instagram a few months later that he wasn't returning. What does that tell you? It tells you that James Gunn and Warner Brothers are every bit as toxic as I'm saying as I'm saying they are. That should tell you that should that's what that should tell you. Now, the other thing that I want to get into, because this is very, very important. I have talked quite a bit about the lack of promotion for Superman on Gunn's, on Gunn's end. Zack Snyder started promoting Man of Steel literally a year in advance. In fact, the first teaser trailer for Man of Steel was dropped during Dark Knight Rises. We already had a teaser trailer back when Dark Knight Rises, hit theaters, and that was in 2012. And obviously, Man of Steel came out a year later. Snyder promoted the shit out of that movie up until it came out, and Man of Steel's complete box office run was $900 million. If Gunn's Superman doesn't make at least as much as Man of Steel did during its box office run, it will be considered a failure. It doesn't matter what the movie's budget is. It doesn't matter how many people go to see it. If it doesn't make at least as much as Man of Steel did, it will be considered a failure. It's that simple. And given Gunn's recent behavior and lack of promotion on his on his end of this movie, it's not looking good at all. It's not. When the first image dropped of David Cornsweet as Superman, him in costume, fans fucking hated it. They did. They hated it. And now I have seen I've seen the pictures for David's workout as Superman, and he's huge. Like literally, like he's fucking huge. Like he's built like a brick shit house, and there is absolutely no sign of that at all in you can't detect a hint of that at all in the costume. And this costume, I've said this before, but this costume looks like a bodysuit. It looks like it was made out of rubber and not whatever they normally use for these types of costumes. I think it's like spandex or something like that, but you can tell, like, there's a night and day difference to how to how, for example, Henry Cavill's suit looked and how David Cornsweet's suit looks. You know, it's a night and day difference, and it really looks like that no love was put into this costume. You know, it just and another thing I want to show you guys. This is the this is apparently the this is apparently the this is apparently the promotional um, poster for Superman. I hope you guys can see that okay. Um, yeah, that's apparently the poster. Now, if you look really, really close here, you can see how baggy the you can see how baggy the red trunks look in this whoops, in this shot right here. And and not to mention, I mean, look at this. It looks like a fucking drawing. You know, it looks like it was drawn, by a comic book artist. And this does not this this does not nothing nothing that Gunn is showing us from this movie screams that DC's going to have another hit on their hands. Remember, Warner Brothers is on the verge of bankruptcy, and from what I understand, nobody and I guarantee you, when this movie bombs, I can guarantee nobody is going to want to work with them until nobody is going to want to work with Warner Brothers until they're sold. And it's just and from what I understand, literally the only reason why Gunn even got the job was because he was the only one willing to take it. They from what I understand, they actually begged Joker director Todd Phillips at one point, back when Discovery bought Warner Brothers and they were looking for someone to run DC Films. They begged Todd Phillips to take it, and he didn't want it. Then they tried Dan Lin, who I'm not familiar with. But he was the closest one to getting it before Gunn got it. So you can clearly see they had a hard time finding someone to take it, and finding someone who wanted it. And then they went with Gunn because obviously, again, because he was the only one willing to take it. Creature Commandos is coming to Max next week. That is not going to, I'm telling you right now, that's not going to be received well. It's not. It's not. And it's not. It's not going to save, DC. And another thing that I need to stress upon you guys, anybody who is saying, this movie's going to be awesome, it's going to be great, and yada, yada, yada. Yeah. Those are all people who are either working and or are in the movie. they are trying to promote this massive shit show that James Gunn has created. Do you really think, you know, do you really think that right then, do you really think that right then, during the promotion stage, do you really think they're going to just be like, oh yeah, it sucks, it's shit? Yeah, no, of course they're not going to do that. During, you know, during like the promotion process and stuff like that. Yeah, no, you're not going to see stuff like that. Of course, you have people, um, anybody who is praising, this movie already is involved with the movie. These are people who, anyone who is promoting this movie right now is somebody who is working and or is involved with the movie. They need, they need their job. So of course they're not going to badmouth, the product, you know? So, um, and another, and I said before, James Gunn is only interested in James Gunn. He doesn't, he is canceling, everything else that's not related to him. He doesn't give a shit about anything else but him. The Penguin show, um, that just ended not that long ago. That is DC's highest rated property right now. And, that is DC's highest rated property right now. Does Gunn give a shit about about the Penguin? No, of course not, because it's not his. He only cares about his stuff. He is, like he said recently, he was asked, is Peacemaker season 1 canon? He goes, yes. Yes, it is canon, just not the Justice League, scene. Why? Why is that not canon? Because it's not his. He is erasing, and or canceling anything else that is not directly related to him or his stuff. And it's a very, 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 very selfish thing to do. But that is what James Gunn does. This is what he does. And another thing I want to bring up, he, originally he said that Blue Beetle was going to be the first character in his DCU. Well, guess what? That didn't happen. He said, he said The Flash was one of the best comic book films he ever saw. Pulled out of theaters literally like a week after its release, because it bombed so heavily. This, I just, guys, I can't stress this enough. This piece of shit cares about one thing and one thing alone, and that is himself. That is all he's interested in. And something else I want to bring up. He wrote, years ago, he wrote a book. Years ago, he wrote a book called The Toy Collector. And it is a fictional, it is a book about, it's out of print now. It was originally published in 2000. It's out of print. But it says, it is the story of a hospital orderly who steals drugs from the hospital, which he sells to help keep his toy collection habit alive. and it says, although the work is fictional, the name of the protagonist is James Gunn. And um, I want to pull up something here, and this landed him in quite a bit of hot water, a few months ago. I don't understand why. Um, I don't understand why they didn't fire him after this, because this is, seriously, this is fucking criminal. Um, this is fucking criminal. Um, it says here, I'm going to read this to you guys. Um, these were actually his words. Um, he in the story, um, in the story, he has a love interest, and he says, and I shit you not, and these were his words. These were his roads. It says, "What's wrong with kids?" She said in a way that revealed her own insecurity on the subject. She swung the cushion into my head again. Nothing. I just don't want to have one. Why not? I don't know. One thing one one thing is, I'm always afraid. I'm gonna want to fuck it. I mean, I I mean that's fucking criminal behavior. Who has a career after something like that? I mean, and and this is just, this is the same piece of shit, you know, that has been, you know, that, you know, that, like I said, is, is only interested in himself. That's it. That's it. This movie is going to break his entire DCU. I guarantee you, when this movie bombs, James Gunn will be out the door. James Gunn will be out the door, and Warner Brothers Discovery will most probably be filing for bankruptcy at that point. Because I guarantee there is no way in hell that this movie is going to make as much as Man of Steel did. Again, and uh, again, because there's no hype for the movie. You know, I've already, if you go back and if you watch, all the Superman videos that I've done so far, on this matter, because I've made quite a few of them already. Um, if you go back and watch those, you will see, and better yet, look at, pay attention to, social media, look at the comments, um, look at Twitter, look at Facebook. Everybody is hating on this movie. It's not just me. It's not. It, it's not just me. I have seen, I've literally seen diehard Superman fans say, yeah, look, I'm a diehard Superman fan, but yeah, I'm a diehard Superman fan, but I have no faith whatsoever in this movie. Plain and simple. Plain and simple. And you know, and again, the fact that and the fact that Warner Brothers Discovery themselves is worried about this movie, that should tell you something right there. That should that alone should tell you, that alone right there should tell you a lot. Because again, they're in so much financial trouble right now. And if you go watch Aaron Fisher's videos, which um who is actually one of my go-tos for who's actually one of my go-tos for my research when when I do videos like this. He is one of my go-tos for this type of stuff, and he is very and he is very reliable. So um so I mean, but I mean, this just, this movie again, this movie is not gonna save. It's not gonna save DC, and it's definitely not gonna save Warner Brothers. It's not, because there is too. Literally, like, I've never seen so many red flags, this early into a movie. I haven't. I've never. And like, again, I'm someone who pays attention to all of the behind the scenes stuff. Like, I need, I am somebody, who hates surprises. I need to know exactly what it is that I'm getting into, before I even agree, before I even agree to it. I need to know 100% what, I need to know exactly 100% what it is, that I'm getting into. I need to know early in advance if it's going to be worth it, or if it's just going to be a waste of my time. And, um, in this movie, and given, the amount of red flags, that this movie has going for it, um, I wouldn't be surprised if nobody wants to work with James Gunn after this. I mean, I don't understand why anyone would want to work with him at all. He's a piece of shit, but whatever. Um, but yeah, no, but yeah, no, I'm so fucking tired of him. I'm sick of the I'm just, I'm so fucking tired of him. I'm sick of the lying. I'm sick of the, um, I'm sick of the lying. I'm sick of the manipulation. I'm sick of, I'm sick of just, Gunn as a whole, because he does not, um, because he does not, um, he is not, the thing that really bugs me about Gunn is that he has a, he can't, like, he can't get out of his own way. Do you know what I mean? Like, like, if you look at Peacemaker, if you look at Suicide Squad, um, both, both of which, I'm not going to lie, I enjoyed those, but those, um, but his style, his style works for stuff like that. His, this is not, Superman is not, um, Superman is outside of his, um, it is like outside of his creativity. Do you know what I mean? Like, he's incapable of thinking, like, outside the box. He has a distinct, um, he has a certain style, and it works for, and it works for some things, um, and for some things it doesn't. And Superman is definitely a big one. Um, but yeah, no, we'll see what, and like, obviously, and obviously, the only reason why, Peacemaker is obviously getting a second season is obviously, because that fucking pedophile is head of DC Studios. that's literally the only reason why it's getting a second season. Is obviously because he's the head of DC now. But I guarantee you, when Superman bombs, and it will, he will be gone. He will be out the door, and they'll be right back when they started, and they'll be right back where they started, and that's obviously nowhere. But yeah, no, I'm just I can't I can't even um I can't even find words for how fucking tired I am of him. And it's not just me. Like, everybody's sick of him. Everybody's sick and tired of um everybody is sick and tired of Gunn and his bullshit, especially Snyder fans. I'm and if you watched my Man of Steel review, you know that I am a diehard Zack Snyder fan. Um, but yeah, no, this movie. I, Warner Brothers is in full panic mode right now, and rightly so. Um, and rightly so. I really don't understand why they don't just scrap this movie and just write it off, as a tax write-off, like they did with the Batgirl movie. um and the fact that this movie is even still coming out goes against what David Zaslav originally said when he was brought in. If we don't believe in it, we're not going to release it. And they obviously don't. And they obviously don't have any faith at all in Superman. So why the fuck are you releasing it? If you have no faith in it, if you have no faith of how it's going to, if you have no faith in how it's going to perform, why are you releasing it? Scrap it. Do something else. Create, have, get, just, fuck it, get rid of Gunn, get rid of Safran, bring somebody in that actually gives a shit about what they're doing and create something that you do have faith in. But that's obviously too much to ask. With Warner Brothers, it's the opposite. It's work. It should be. It shouldn't. It should be. It's what it should be is don't work harder. Work. Don't work harder. Work more creatively. But they aren't. But they don't know how to do that. There's just they don't know how to do that. They're just work. They're all they know now. All they know how to do is work lazier. They put. They. They. They pick the worst fucking candidates for these types of movies. For these types of movies these days, and they just go with whatever they can pull out of their asses. Look at Joker. Folly of Deluxe. That idea came to Joaquin Phoenix in a dream, and he came to and literally the only reason why obviously, well, there were two reasons why there was one reason really why it happened, because the first movie was obviously such a big hit, and but but and another thing, I think I think I said this already in one of my videos, but DC films as of late have not performed well at the box office. Like I said before, Shazam Shazam 2 bombed, Aquaman 2 bombed, The Flash bombed, Blue Beetle bombed, Joker bombed. And then I think that there were like I think there were like two other I think there were like two other DC properties that bombed that for whatever reason I don't remember off the top of my head right now. But um, again, they're on the verge of bankruptcy. They aren't. They aren't. They they aren't. They aren't, like Sony or Microsoft or Disney, or they can't they can't afford to keep taking hits like this. That they're not gonna make it. And and it's and you know what? And when they do go bankrupt, I'm gonna be there and I'm gonna be laughing my ass off, because I have had a very, very strong, passionate um hatred for Warner Brothers for a long time now. Um, so yeah, when this bombs, in regards to Gunn's other projects that are in the works right now, Supergirl, Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, and the Lantern Show. Um, I have two guesses where those are gonna. I have two guesses what those what could be, what could happen to those. Couple things. It's obviously going to depend on how far along they are right now in development. Um, Lanterns, depending on how far along it is. Um, if it's far along in development, they will either write it off as a tax write-off, or they will retool it so it doesn't, or they will, retool it so it doesn't, so it doesn't have anything to do with Guns, DCU. Um, Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. That is supposed to begin filming, I believe, in January. Um, I believe sometime in January. Um, that again, this is this is just me. This is I don't have anything to back this up. This is just me guessing. Um, but again, it's obviously going to depend on how far along it is in development. Like if they haven't started filming, obviously they're going to scrap it. If they started filming, um, if they do have, like a cast and they started filming and everything, then it will most probably get retooled into something else. That I think that's a pretty likely possibility. Um, but yeah, no, I know I'm not alone in this, and I know that a lot of people are I know a lot of people are just as sick of James Gunn as I am. Um, and yeah, this should not be happening. And this should not be happening. Again, it already happened back when, Walter Hamada was in charge, of DC, and then, obviously, and then they fired him, and then, and now, and then they fired him, and now James Gunn is head of DC. And these, I just, I don't understand why it's so fucking hard to get this stuff right. It's like I don't understand. It's like, I don't understand. It's like, why do you have to be a piece of shit to be in charge? To be able, to be able to, to be able to, be in charge of DC films. I don't get it. But yeah, we'll, like I said, we'll see what happens. Um, there is no official release date on, um, on specifically when the Superman trailer is going to drop. It's rumored sometime in December, but knowing fucking James Gunn and just how frequently he likes to change his mind and lie about things, I'm guessing that it will. I'm guessing that it will most probably not drop in December. My best guess, it'll probably drop at the end of January, because that's actually when Gunn announced his DC slate. Back when he was first put in charge, it was announced. I think it it was announced. I think like January 31st. Um, but yeah, no, we'll see what happens. But um, we'll see what happens. But all I can say is, all I can say right now is just I can't fucking wait for him to be gone, because he just, he never should have been put in charge. He just, he never should have been put in charge, um, in addition to him obviously being just, a massive piece of shit, he has no clue what he's doing. And it really, really, and his, and just, and it really, and it just, and it really, and he just, he's got no fucking clue what he's doing. Um, and his lack of, promotion for this movie, um, his lack of promotion, for his own fucking movie, um, that he should be promoting, his lack of promotion, for this movie, I think really, really speaks to, um, really, really speaks volumes of the fact that, he just has no fucking clue what he's doing. And he just, he continues to just, shirk his responsibilities as DC, as head of DC Films. But yeah, no, this is just, this is bullshit. All I can, all I can say is just, I can't wait for him to be gone. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. Let me know, let me know what you guys think. I'll keep you guys updated, obviously. Like, subscribe, and I will talk to you guys later. Bye.